again, friends. This week we tell a fascinating little story requested by my favorite Tay, who is also my most favorite requester. Remember that if possible, I am always happy to read requests. Next year's Spooky Month already has a request for a Lovecraft story. Once I can figure out how to, make it short enough without hurting the story. But that is a year away. Next up is Winter Holiday Month. There are 5 Sundays this December. We have requests for 3 out of 5 of them. So if you have a winter holiday request, just let me know in the comments. I have not heard of this story, like ever, but I dearly love the title. So join me now as I read Prince Hyacinth and the Dear Little Princess. Once upon a time, there was a king who was in love with a princess. But the princess was under a spell and could not marry anyone. More information on the curse would be nice. I mean, what kind is it? Does everybody know about the curse? Or, did the king find out when he was trying to marry the princess? It's going to be one of those stories, isn't it? A kind fairy took pity on the king and told him how to break the curse. He had to stand on the tail of the princess's cat, and whoever succeeded would be destined to marry the princess. The king thought it would be easy to stand on the cat's tail. The king has clearly never owned a cat. But the cat was always one step ahead of him, until one evening the cat was fast asleep. The king put his foot on the tail and stepped as hard as he could. It's a good way to get scratched. The cat let out an icy scream and transformed into an evil wizard. The wizard said, "You will marry the princess because she broke the curse, but I will take revenge. You will have a son who will never be happy until he discovers that his nose is too long."
Oh, what happened? Did your parents lose a bet with God?
The king was terrified, but he couldn't help but laugh at the threat. If my son had such a long nose, he thought to himself, he will surely be able to see it for himself.
Monsieur, your nose. Your nose is rather large.
When the wizard disappeared, the king wasted no time and went to find the princess, who agreed to marry him immediately. Shortly after the wedding, the king died, leaving the queen with her son, whom she named Hyacinth. And I gotta tell you, parents in fairy tales are the most endangered creatures in the world. The little prince had big, beautiful blue eyes and was incredibly sweet, but his nose was enormous. The queen was inconsolable when she saw his big nose, but her court ladies assured her that it was not as big as it seemed. They said it was a handsome Roman nose.
It's small. Terribly small. It's minute. Minuscule.
You only had to open a history book to see that great heroes had big noses. The queen was pleased with what the court ladies told her. When she looked at Hyacinth again, his nose didn't seem as big to her. The prince was raised with great care. Terrible stories were told about people with short noses. That seems nosist. No one was allowed near him whose nose was not more or less the same size as his. History teachers were urgently told to say that great men had long noses. Portraits of people with very big noses hung in the prince's room. The prince grew up believing that a long nose was of great beauty, and that he would never have wanted his own to be even a centimeter shorter.
Hey, Sophie?
Yeah.
You know the old saying about a man's nose?
Oh, you mean how the size of a man's nose relates to the size of his...
Oh, my God!
I love doing that to them.
when the prince turned 21, the queen thought it was time for him to get married. She had portraits of various princesses brought to the castle. Among those portraits was the one of the dear little princess. She was the daughter of a great king, and one day would rule multiple kingdoms herself. But Prince Hyacinth did not care about that. He was head over heels in love with the dear little princess, and only wanted to marry her, even if she had a small, insignificant nose. But one of the courtiers told the prince that it was different for a woman's beauty, and that even Cleopatra had a small and even slightly crooked nose. Fun fact, apparently her great beauty was created by jealous men who couldn't stand the idea that they had been outmaneuvered by a woman. It couldn't be her brains, it must be her looks. But anyway, I digress. Back to the story. The prince gave him a splendid gift for this good news, and sent his people to ask the dear little princess for her hand in marriage. Her father, the king, gave his consent. Yes, but what did she say?
Doesn't matter. Wrong time period.
So, the prince set off to meet the sweet little princess in person. Just as he was about to kiss her hand, the wizard suddenly appeared and snatched the princess away, vanishing with her in an instant. Timing is everything. The prince was inconsolable and declared that he would not return to his kingdom without his princess. He sent all of his courtiers home and continued on alone, riding his horse day and night. He rode until he saw a light shining from a cave. Realizing that he and his horse had gone a long time without eating, he approached the cave and met a small, old woman. She was a fairy and looked to be at least 100 years old. She put on her glasses to take a good look at the prince, but her nose was so small that the glasses kept sliding off. "Cooper Howard, is that you?" After several attempts, she managed to keep the glasses in place. They both burst out laughing and exclaimed at the same time, "Oh, what a funny nose!" "Not as funny as yours," said Prince Hyacinth to the fairy. "But, madam, I beg you to leave our noses alone and give me something to eat, for I am starving, and so is my poor horse." The fairy told him that he was the son of her best friend. Wow, small world. She continued to talk about the prince's father and his handsome nose, which started to irritate the prince. He was more concerned about his hunger and that of his horse. The fairy eventually took him inside and ordered her servants to prepare some food. While the prince was eating, the fairy told him about his father and asked him what was happening in the kingdom now. She also continued to comment on the prince's nose, which annoyed him even more.
It's huge. It's enormous. It's gigantic. And they said it was big, but I didn't expect it to be big.
He thought to himself that the fairy was spoiled by the flatterers who made her believe that she talked very little. The prince became so irritated by the fairy's constant remarks about his nose that he quickly left, got his horse, and rode away. But wherever he went, people had something to say about his nose. He began to think that all people were crazy and could not bring himself to admit that his nose was probably too long.
Well, he's kind of funny looking, so I wouldn't mention it.
He had always thought his nose was beautiful. The fairy felt she had to help the prince and came up with a plan. She had the sweet little princess locked in a crystal palace and placed it in a spot where the prince would surely find it. Wait, what happened to the wizard? Was there like an epic battle between fairy and wizard for the fate of the princess? Or did she just, walk in and say, "Oh wait, hand her over"? And that was that? You know, I want to hear this part of the story. And he did. The prince was overjoyed to find her and worked tirelessly to free her from the palace. But despite his efforts, he couldn't do it. He then tried to get as close as possible to the sweet little princess to talk to her, and she held out her hand for him to kiss, but his nose got in the way.
Cheers.
For the first time, he realized how long his nose really was, and exclaimed, "Oh no! I must admit that my nose is far too long." The Crystal Palace shattered into 1,000 pieces, killing or severely injuring the prince and princess, who were both standing right there. The old fairy took the sweet little princess by the hand and said to the prince, "Now you see how self-love prevents you from knowing your own faults. You refuse to see your own faults until they get in the way of what is most important to you." From that moment on, the prince's nose became smaller and smaller until it was the size of everyone else's nose. He married the sweet little princess, and they lived happily ever after.
What is the message of this story?
Well, I think the story is kind of anti-narcissist-ish.
That's not how narcissism works.
I'm sorry, what is that?
That's not what a narcissist is. He was chill with his nose.
Well, I think it's that a certain amount of self-love is good, but, when you are blind to your own faults, then it becomes a problem.
That can work, but that is not what the story said.
Well, maybe the story meant to say that, but the author sucked, They didn't actually give us the whole fight scene between the wizard and the fairy, which would have been awesome.
I believe that.
Where was I? Oh, yes! Ha! Well, it's time I ask you to like, share, and subscribe. If you wouldn't mind leaving a comment, I can't tell you how much it will help us defeat the evil algorithm. I can't tell you because I don't know, but they keep telling me that if I have an active and engaged audience, then they'll suggest me to more people. So please, please, please leave a comment. I would like to thank Pixabay.com for the images and sounds and music and vectors and, well, everything they have there. It sure helps out my channel. If you would like to support me on Patreon, Instagram, or Facebook, there are links in the description below. And don't forget about the notification bell, so you will know when I put out a new video. And of course, I couldn't do this without you. Your input, your requests, and your friendship. I cannot thank you enough. And now, a special thank you for my Patreon friends.
Psst. Hey. Hey, Artie. Oh, hi, Larry. Is the cameraman around? Why do you ask? Well, we got a new Patreon supporter and a new moral supporter, so I was thinking, that it's time to film a new Patreon. Did you want to do it again? Yep. But, maybe we don't need to tell the cameraman. Larry, we would need the cameraman to film it. Yeah, I guess that's true, but maybe you could protect me? Anyway, we wanted to give a big old loving and heartfelt thank you to Robinson and Ida and Darren and Teresa and Bree Journay and wait, what? What did you just say? Oh, I figured it was somebody's name, so you was just mispronouncing it the way you always do. Thanks for that, Larry. Oh, you are very welcome, Artie. And Karen and William and my friends Josh, Colleen, and Callum and Celeste and Artie's mom and HW and Bernie and Mike from Japan and now also Kyla. And for moral support, we have Darla and also Alicia. By joining our Patreon friends, you get access to bloopers and pictures that are done by the cameraman, and also more images of Rosie and Tiger.
Artie, what are you doing?
Oh, nothing. We're doing nothing. You don't have to come in here. Maybe you should say goodbye.
Artie?
Say goodbye, Larry. Goodbye.